ปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชชาจารณะสัมปันโนสุขโตโลกวิทูอนุตตรปุริสธัมมัสสารติสัตตะเดวมนุสสานังพุทโธภะคะวะติสวากขาโตภะคะวะตาธัมโมสันติติโกอาคาลิโกเฮหิปัสสิโกโอปนัยโกปัจจตังเวทิตาโพวินยูหิติสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆอุจุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆญาญาปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสามิจิปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆยะติตังชัตตาริปุริสายุกานิอัตตปุริสบุคคลาเอสะภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆอาหุเนยโยปาหุเนยโยตาคินัยโยอัญจลิการณิโยอนุตตรังปุญญเขตังโลกัสสาติติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณะสัมปันโนสุขโตโลกวิทูอนุตตรปุริสธัมมัสสารติสัทธาเทวมนุสสานังพุทโธภะคะวะติสวากขาโตภะคะวะตาธัมโมสันติติโกอาคาลิโกเอหิปัสสิโกโอปนัยโกปัจจตังเวทิตาโพวินยูหิติสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆอุจุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆญาญาปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสามิจิปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆยะติตังชัตตาริปุริสายุกานิอัตตปุริสปุคคลาเอสะภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆอาหุเนยโยปาหุเนยโยตาคินัยโยอัญจลิการณิโยอนุตตรังปุญญาเขตังโลกัสสาติติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชชาจารณะสัมปันโนสุขโตโลกวิทูอนุตตรปุริสธัมมัสสารติสัทธาเทวมนุสสานังพุทโธภะคะวะติสวากขาโตภะคะวะตาธัมโมสันติติโกอาคาลิโกเอหิปัสสิโกวะปนัยโกปัจจตังเวทิตาโพวินยูหิติสุปฏิปันโน Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Vajjapatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Anyaya Patipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Samichi Patipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Yadidang Chatari Purisa Yugani Atta Purisa Puggala Esa Bhagavat Sāvaka Sangho Ahunayo Apahunayo Dakinayo Anjali Karaniyo Anuttam Punya Ketang Lokasaki. Since Joyce, we have like kind of 45 minutes to an hour before we do the sharing, correct?
Yes.
So maybe we'll forego the meditation. I'll just try to answer the questions that are remaining. Would that be okay?
That'd be good. Whatever is suitable for you, Luang Por.
I think I'll probably need that time for, if we had a bit of time left over, we can meditate for a wee bit, but perhaps I could just do those questions.
Good idea. We start off with a question, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So a lot of the and they help clarify, but also to make sure you get your own confidence, and that confidence comes from just seeing the results of your practice, quite simply, cause and effect. And if the results are creating wholesome results for you, then be confident that that's right. And so sometimes, like in describing this technique, different people have different nuances on it. That's fine, really. It doesn't really matter. It's not really hardcore. You have to do this technique this way all the time. But what's the result? That's what we're always looking at. Is the result one where there's more calm, there's more compassion, that you walk away from the meditation cushion better able to deal with the world, rather than the world just being this hassle of impositions that confuses you. Right? So trust in your own intentions, in your own intelligence. It's all there, and realize these that the training of the mind takes a long time, but the training is always the same training, in the sense it's awareness in the moment of the way things are. So if like if you felt confident and I said to you, you're wrong, and then you got sort of confused, realize it's your practice. No teacher can know what's going on in your mind, and any teacher is always kind of just guessing, and from their own experience, unless some teachers seem to be able to read people's minds, but that seems pretty rare. I'm certainly not there. So any teacher is kind of listening to you, and like presenting possibilities, seeing if you respond, presenting possibilities, and say, okay, that seems to be where we're at, and then there's a good dialogue. So good teaching requires good listening, as well as a good, like discipleship also requires good listening. There has to be listening on with both avenues. And so sometimes these questions because I don't have a chance to actually talk with you and sit down, I'm not sure if I'm really hitting the mark. Whereas if I was sitting with you, I could see your body language. I could see, nah, she's not getting that. Okay. And I would just search around until I found a vein of truth that we could share. And that's one-on-one teaching is obviously much more, I think much more accurate, fruitful, appropriate, whatever word we might use. So my apologies if I don't get this right. So, dear Luang Por, if I were to experience calm during meditation, should I bring up the thought of the situation that I have been having anxiety for, or should I continue and sit and quote birdwatch and see what comes up naturally? Yeah, I would suggest the latter, because we usually don't have enough composure in our lives. You know, we have lots of busyness in our lives and dealing with stressful situations. So giving the mind a chance to actually rest, to relax is important, but also it's a kind of strengthening of awareness. So I've never been one of really pulling stuff up and out. Usually I've had enough suffering going on that it didn't have to do that. So I would suggest periods of calm, if they are the result of your practice and they're not your part of your practice, I would say do lots of that. That's very, very helpful, very healthy, very important. And then that should lay a foundation for your own observation of where the sadness or the anxieties come up. And then if your practice on a cushion is one where you're saying it's like this, and you're just registering this present moment as it is, not creating anything really, just registering, calming, then that same attitude should then present itself when you feel anxious. So like for me, where I learned a lot about anxiety was giving Dhamma talks. Now, I would sort of feel the anxiety maybe before, but then in the midst of the Dhamma talk, or just before it actually, I'd feel tremendous anxiety. And that's when it came up. And that's what I just, okay, anxiety feels this way. And I got to observe it and know it and explore it as it came up. And then the other times when it wasn't there, the kind of calmness of mind and composure of the mind actually gave me the tools to be with the anxiety. So I would suggest when it, let things come up naturally. And when they come, just see them as it is. And if they're difficult, see if you can just bear witness to them, not get caught in the storylines and the narratives and so on. I have a question on the body scanning meditation method. After practicing a few times, I realized maybe that I'm using my analytical mind too much. For example, when I scan through eardrum, somehow the image of an eardrum appears. I know where an eardrum should be actually, but I can't feel it. Am I using my analytical mind too much? I don't think so. It's just, it's natural. But like when I'm kind of scanning through the body, I'll kind of have a vague image of some body part, but my mind doesn't produce imagery. I am fantastic. I just discovered there's a term in psychology. It's a spectrum of possibilities and of visual imagery, a capacity that people have, and it's called fantasia. And in that, this is a segue, by the way, in that spectrum of possibilities, aphantasia is the inability to visualize images. And hyperphantasia is an over-exaggerated capacity to visualize, so much so that it's almost a reality. So I am an aphantasic. When I discovered this in psychology, at breakfast time, I said to the monks, "Can you visualize an apple?" And everyone said, yes, yes, yes. I said, I can't. And then I said, how about a pencil? Everyone said, oh, yes, yes, I can do pencil. I said, I can't. So I am aphantastic, but I'm told that I'll be okay. They say I can live a normal life, so that's good. So I suppose in that vein, if you are hyperphantasic, right, then I suppose you would be just naturally creating a lot of imagery, which I can't say because I don't have that experience. My mind's very simple. I'm a simple guy, so I don't have that complexity. So one of the monks, I think, who was more hyperphantasic or more on that spectrum, says you're really, really lucky. You don't get all this stuff going on. So most of my imagery is conceptual. But having said that, where in imagery does it become papancha? Where does it take you away from composure? If it's part of the attempt to compose the mind, then that seems to me fine. And so this isn't like you cannot do anything, but just try. Okay, so there's the image of an eardrum. Fine, just see what happens. It happens with that. So do your own experiment, and don't try to control things, but see what's the difference between composure, distraction, and control. What does composure feel like? So that's the basic exercise, composing and collecting the mind, okay? When I read about the aphantastics, as they always do, they try to pathologize, that's the word, pathologize this condition. And so then they tell you all the famous people who are aphantastic just to make you reassured. And I think modern life tries to make everything a sickness. But it's just the mind misbehaving, really. And there's nothing really wrong. So yeah, you gotta be careful. Okay, so this is a longer description, but the introduction: awareness is not separate but distinct. Here's how I understand it. So the sister describes for me what she feels that is about. And so to this person, I would say, just try to explore these suggestions from silence rather than get too analytical and too defining in thought. So moving to no thought is very skillful, and hopefully this language that I've been using about that the sound is not separate from awareness is a way to bring you to silence. And then the way we might describe that, different people might describe it in different ways, but I suggest don't go there. Go more to the silence and trust in silence, trust in awareness to show whatever needs to be shown. So I won't read that all out. And then a person asks, although I'm relatively young, in my mid-20s, I struggle very much with finding comfortable posture for sitting meditation, and my body is just swaying and adjusting to reduce the pain. Can you kindly suggest a good posture? Well, I would say, first of all, either go to a physiotherapist and see if it's some kind of chronic pinching of nerves, or go to a yoga teacher and get them to look at your posture. So get someone who really understands the body and who has a lot of experience, hands-on experience, because you don't want to. I had a problem. Where was it? I think it was in my back somewhere. So I went to physiotherapist, and he's very good. He's a physiotherapist for athletes, and he's hands-on, really good. And I told him what I do: basically sit still for an hour in cross-legged posture. And he said, you have a repetitive stillness injury. And I had never heard that term before. And he said, you're the first person I've met who has a repetitive stillness injury. And it was true. I was just sitting in some kind of pinched nerve situation. And he said, don't do that. I said, well, I got to meditate. So then I tried to find another posture that I could do it in. But, you know, if you're mid-20s, you do really want to develop a comfortable posture. And if it's already painful, then do be careful. And then figure out actually what's the physiology in this pain. And it sounds like it's not just restlessness. And restlessness is different. And then explore that with someone so you don't hurt yourself, but do work on it in that way. And then I experienced some moments when the entire body feels very heavy. Every in-breath and out-breath also weighs a ton, and I feel like I'm glued to the ground. It's not necessarily tension, but just heaviness. I usually open my eyes to do something else, but I decided to try to sit with it today, and after a while, the weight went away, which is great. That's great practice. And can you explain why? No, I don't know. I really don't. And lots of stuff we don't know why. If you read Luang Liam's enlightenment piece in No Worries, my memory system lives over here. No Worries, in that, Luang Liam goes through incredible states of samadhi and deep, deep bliss. And then the day before that final enlightenment realization, say, he goes through incredible sleepiness. And I found that fascinating, where he's just so dull and so sleepy, and he's falling over in the meditation path, and he cuts himself on bushes, and then the next day the mind is free. And all he says is, well, it's like this. Heaviness is like this. Dullness is like this. So sometimes we don't know why it is, but our task is not so much to know why it is, but sustain awareness of the way things are. And dullness is very difficult. So that takes me to the question, kindly advise how to deal with drowsiness during meditation. And I think drowsiness is probably the most difficult hindrance. And to be honest, when I look at the screens, there's a lot of people, I see the tops of their heads rather than their faces. and that indicates to me some kind of neck problem. The neck is sort of not strong enough or something. And so drowsiness is humorous, but is a very, very difficult hindrance to get through, because you kind of know you're there, but you're not quite there. So my solution to that was developing a strong hara. So I realized that it's something about the posture just losing its verticalness, for sure, but also losing the vitality in the spine. And so I experimented with a very extreme pushing forward of the hara and pushing the small of the back forward, and then driving the energy up by opening the shoulders and pushing the head to the ceiling and pushing the coccyx down to the ground. So it's very extreme kind of pushing of energy out. So the whole tendency for the posture then to collapse like a C, try to create it. Obviously, that's what you're trying to do. And it had to be quite, when I went through a period of dullness in 77, I think, where it was just a really strong hindrance came all the time. And so then that you as a meditator say, okay, sure, I could meditate better if I didn't have this hindrance, but that is the teaching. That's where I have to learn. I have to learn when the hindrance is there. I have to learn about it. And so that was a solution for me. And I would, I do the usual, not close the eyes, and that was very difficult. But it's usually around what happens to the head. When does the head start to drop? And what happens to the back? When does it start to kind of collapse? And the pushing of the hara forward for me. And then if I do it now, I can feel the small of my back. I can feel the sides of the pelvic bone there. And then if I drive my coccyx into the ground, I can feel the spine pushing upwards. So it's that kind of thing. And I had to do it a lot to figure out how to do it. And now I drink too much coffee to get sleepy, I think. But if my body rhythms are such that usually something about like 10 in the morning, the mind likes to do dullness. I don't know why. And so then I kind of know that this meditation is just going to be about the body and pushing upwards. But I tend not to meditate at that time, probably because of my schedule, but I know that it's not a really good time for my, so I do walking meditation or something else, working. So it's, so me, for myself, the solution was through the body. Some people use like pranayama. Pranayama seems to be very good for that. So obviously it's a coarse and extreme kind of practice. It's not subtle because the mind has just gone dull. So these suggestions I'm making about awareness and so on, if that dullness of the hindrance comes, then these subtle suggestions aren't going to work. You have to go back to something more coarse, not coarse in a way of bad, but coarse in the more of the way of obvious, something more obvious that you can really tangible, you can hold on to. And if it doesn't, the sitting posture doesn't work, then you do walking. So a lot of in the Sangha, we find the monks who have dullness in the morning, they'll quite often do the puja and then they'll get up and they'll walk in the sala or outside the sala. They'll do walking meditation instead. So you might notice when does dullness come? Is it always there? Is it a hindrance? It's always there. Is it a function of lack of sleep? Or is it part of body rhythms? Or has it just become a bad habit? If it's become a bad habit, then be careful because it's a difficult one to get out of. So you'll find, like in Zen practice, if you go to a zendo, the monks are seated around the periphery of the Dharma hall with their faces to the wall, and then they have, I think it's called a jigijitsu.
Yes.
A jigijitsu, and this is the fellow with the flat stick, and he comes around, and then if it's just a training session, if it's not a sesshin, then he will touch your shoulder. He'll see you nodding. He'll touch your shoulder with his flat stick. And then if you want to get whacked, you put your hands in Anjali, and then he'll whack you, whack, two shots on the shoulders. And apparently he's kind of hitting some pressure points. But if he doesn't like you, you're in trouble. But it's all done very, very respectfully. And I've just been to one Zendo session like that, and I was sitting beside the guy, and I was like, "Fro, don't hit me!" So it was very good for the whole room. Whack, whack. In Theravada, we just let you sleep. It's just, kind of no one goes around. I said, you got to figure this out yourself. I'm not going to walk around. So that's Theravada. But it's you have to make a determination to learn about the hindrance. How does it work? And how do I get out of it? I think we'll have time to sit. Dear Long Paul, let me see, did I get that? Oh, no, here we go. Dear Long Paul, I may be wrong, please correct me. You mentioned that during meditation, we may be aware of certain emotions, so we may investigate. Why? Is this therefore getting the mind too busy to investigate after the meditation session? So maybe for this person, maybe the word is to observe or explore and to understand through the experience of the emotion itself. So when I'm saying investigation, it's not like thinking about it, but going directly to it before thought. That's what I'm implying. But investigation can sound like you're analyzing it in some analytical way. That might be helpful, but generally, we don't have the patience to allow things to cease. I think that's one of the problems, is some sadness or fearfulness comes up, and rather than trusting in awareness, as Lompo has been so generously telling us, and knowing it as a sankhara that has a nature to arise, it has a nature to arise, it has a nature to cease, seeing it as anicca, rather than trusting in that whole formulation and practice, we tend to think we have to fix it or get rid of it, and that's tanha. So very often the problem is a lack of patience. We don't have the patience just to bear with an unpleasant emotion. And when will it cease? Well, we don't know. And so to actually know something fully that's unpleasant and just to trust it will cease, the problem isn't the emotion, it's the lack of trust and patience. And if you kind of get, no, you just say to yourself, oh, whatever, it can be here forever. I don't care. Fine. That's a whole different attitude. The analysis is coming from the desire to get rid of. So just the body awareness, trusting, and it feels like this, it feels like this. Then when you get the hang of that, you see things cease in a way you haven't done it. It's just nature, and more and more you realize what nirodha is about, the cessation of suffering. But what's often lacking is patience. Because it's unpleasant. You don't want to have that. So I guess the inquiry would be around desire. Is there a desire to get rid of this? Is the reason I'm trying to understand this a desire to get rid of? And that won't be effective because attachment to desire is the cause of suffering. So if you can see that the desire to get rid of feels like this, and the emotion is negative, it's unpleasant, it's like that, wait it out, then you start to realize nirodha, cessation. One of the 5 precepts is to not kill, but what do I do if I accidentally killed ants in the kitchen? Well, accidents are just a part of the ant's life in your life, so you're okay. And otherwise, it would be more like a Jain philosophy, I suppose, where, I think Jain ascetics, they sweep the path in front of themselves. But for us, it's just life. Accident is life. So if you don't deliberately kill things, that's not breaking the precept. And then if you inadvertently, mosquito bites you on the shoulder and you slap it, then you say, whoops, sorry, and you just try again. Rather than make it some huge issue in your mind, you just try to develop more mindfulness. So the precepts are not, they're moral guidelines, but they're also reflections to make you more mindful. They're not kind of absolutes. Yeah. And life is just full of birth and death and struggle, and we try to participate in a way we can where we don't do any more harm. But an ant's life is an ant's life. People step on them. So of late, I have taken to contemplating dependent origination. I would like to know how and where does trusting and awareness intersect with the 12 links of dependent origination? How does trusting and awareness cut the root of ignorance? Avijja pache sankara, sankara pache vijnana. So avijja is ignorance. And what is ignorance? In the first instance, ignorance is described as sakaya ditti, silabhata paramasa, vichikicha, doubt. And what does sakaya ditti? Personality view. And how does personality view manifest? As thought. I am. So if you have, let's say, okay, we'll go back to my same old analogy. Sorry. Okay, we got the lawnmower, or the chainsaw. Let's say the chainsaw was revving up. Was it yesterday? Yesterday, and the windows are open. Okay, so let's say that chainsaw as condition. That's passa, contact, ear contact. Salayatana is the organ of contact, and then pasa is contact. Then Vedana, feeling, is the feeling for, in this case, maybe unpleasant, because it's interrupting my attempt to talk, right? So you have Vedana, and the Vedana in this case is unpleasant. And because it's unpleasant, then the tendency is to attach to that with desire to not have the unpleasant. So I don't want that sound, go away, close the window, be quiet, don't you understand? And so the not only is there tanha or craving to not have that, there's upadana. And upadana is the attachment to that sound through the thought, go away, stop, don't you understand? And that's the sense of self. And that's avijja, and that's ignorance. And then from upadana, you get bhava and the whole cycle of birth and death. So how do you break that cycle is you don't believe in the self-thinking. So if in that cycle of self-thinking, I see, oh no, this thought that you guys should not do that. And I say to myself, is awareness separate from thought? Then that's, to me, the end of avijja. The ignorance of self, selfing, is cut through awakening as awareness in the situation. Attachment then would be avijja, would be, oh, why don't they stop? Don't they understand? Would be in thought. So each time you cut the ignorance, so the whole thing is based on ignorance, the whole dependent origination, the problem, avijja. And what is avijja? It's avijja isn't that you don't experience life. You will always experience life, but you experience life in a mode which is ignorant. It's misunderstanding. It's not understanding. Sound is sound. Hearing is hearing. Vedana is Vedana. It's just the way it is. So then the tanha and upadana, the craving and the attachment, is what we're trying to observe. We observe that, oh, there's Vedana is unpleasant, but the tanha is not necessary. That's something that's added from the habit of wanting. And so then I say, oh, what does unpleasant feel like? And is the sound, is the awareness of sound separate from sound? And no, it's just silent knowing of sound. And unpleasant, what's unpleasant feel like? Oh, it feels like that. And then you see the unpleasant often goes to neutral, because unpleasant can't sustain itself. It's just the way it is. And say in this case where it's not really hurting me, if I hold attention on the unpleasant aspect, it goes, well, it's just a sound, just doing what sounds do. So each of those are iterations of insight, are kind of cutting the whole cycle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. But in a psychological sense, you're not getting reborn as Viradhammo, the irritated monk, angry at the lawnmower people or something like that. Yeah? So awareness is the key to that. So I mean, it's a huge topic. So that's just, we're at the end of the retreat. So I could go on, but I think, yeah, it's such a huge topic in Buddhism, but it looks very complicated. It looks very complicated when you look at that, but it's actually not. If you understand avijja, that avijja is the problem, and you can see in yourself, like you start to make a problem out of something, and you say, and you see the selfing. Why do they do that? They should have done that, and you notice it, and all of a sudden your mind relaxes. It's out of suffering, even though the social situation might be the same. All right, there's that. Take with you. Yeah. Dear Luang Por, when emotions arise, I notice the arisen, where tears dropped with memory behind the mind. I try to note the cessation of the emotion, but it just ends so fast that I could not see the cessation. Could Luang Por advise on how to see the cessation of such emotion? Well, when it ended, you saw that, so that's cessation. I don't quite get the question. Maybe I think perhaps you're just putting more into that idea than then is there. When you notice that something's not there, say. So if you don't use the word cessation, use another word, presence and not presence. So the emotion is present, and then it's not present. Just use a different kind of language, because sometimes, you'll have a kind of Pali term like nirodha, cessation, and you'll think some kind of esoteric insight should be coming into consciousness, and then you'll look for something called cessation and make it actually more complicated than it is. So I would suggest just use that formula. It's here. No, it's not here. It's ceased. So I quite often do practices like, what does non-anger feel like? Or what does non-worry feel like? It's like this. And then when worry comes up or annoyance comes up, oh, annoyances. And you start to see the anicca, the changing nature of annoyance as a condition that comes and goes, by actually looking at its opposite, because you're not always angry, you're not always afraid. Right? There's lots of times when it's not there. So recognize that, oh, this is non-worry, or this is non-stressful, and then you get more insight into the arising of stress and worry and things like that. I dread my parents dying. Any suggestions for addressing this? Well, so you have to look at the dread, don't you? You're always just looking at the way things are, and thinking that you shouldn't dread the death of your parents is just some idea. And I could say to you, as a card-carrying Buddhist, you should realize that your parents will die and give you a lecture on death. Thank you very much. Which should be very patronizing and so on. And you know that. We all know that. So that's not going to be helpful. But perhaps more helpful might be if you just see, well, dread is a condition that arises and ceases as well, just as the body arises. And so you have the courage to make conscious the feeling of dread. Whereas when you don't make conscious the feeling of dread, what will happen is that you will keep thinking in ways driven by dread. It's terrible language. Well, you'll keep worrying about the death of your parents, or what will I do when that happens? And so you're removed through thought, through papancha, from the very feeling of dread. But if you can come back to a pre-thinking, or observing this sense of dread before you think about it, same thing, and bear witness to that and see what happens. Now that's very uncomfortable because it's dreadful. I don't want the dreadful, I want the comfortable. But if you don't go to the dreadful, then it will always plague you, and you'll always be thinking in ways to alleviate that, and yet your parents will die. You may die before them, and that might even be more dreadful when you think about it. So all of those iterations of possibility are fearful, and life is fearful. So where is the refuge? The refuge is not in eternal life of a body, because that doesn't exist, but it's actually in the sense that dread is an object, an emotional, uncomfortable object in awareness, and that awareness of dread is not separate from dread. So then if you use that formulation or that way of practice, then you begin to not get caught in the thoughts. But you do have the courage to bear with the very uncomfortable feeling in the heart and in the body. Then you serve your parents best, actually, because you've dealt with their dying before they die to some extent. Not the same as when they do die, but you've dealt with some extent, and then you can be more courageous in their dying. Because if you're taking care of your parents and you're full of terror at their death, that's going to mess their mind up, isn't it? Oh, don't die, don't die. And they just have to go through their process. Everyone has to die. So if you don't have some sense that this is nature, nature has birth and death in it, as they die, then it becomes very complicated. And that's if anyone has done any hospice work, the training of people who sit with patients who are dying in palliative care and hospice kind of environments, they're trained to not portray their own emotions into the situation, because it's not about them, it's about the person dying. And they're also trained that if some strong emotions are coming up and they need to be with that, they have to get out of the room, so that the person who's dying doesn't have to engage in their emotional difficulty. Now, in family, it can't be that way. In family, you're going to be with whoever's there and everyone's going to be crying and feeling what they feel. But if there is someone in the family who has that stability to know with birth there is death, has done meditation, then that is a huge thing for the whole family. Of course, as monks, we find that we go into a situation where we know the lay person is dying, we know them quite well, but we don't have the attachment of family. And then we can be in that environment and offer serenity just by being there. And that's very, very helpful. So as a child of a parent and someone who wants to really help them, the best help you could do is to deal with this now. And the way you deal with it now is you just, whenever you feel the dread, sit in a chair and say, oh, dread is like this. Don't try to fix it. Just be with it. And then what happens is awareness becomes stronger than the dread. If you don't let it become conscious, then dread is stronger than awareness. And it's always like this background of horror kind of threatening you, but it's not. You can be aware. So your heart opens. Okay, dread is this way. And then those same reflections on compassion that everyone who loves someone dreads the death of the loved one. It's natural, don't we? We all have that. And you say, yeah, this is the human condition. And I think they call that, I don't know, some of the Thai friends might tell me salotjai or something like that. It's a feeling of kind of the sadness of human existence, the compassion of human existence, but you don't take it to depression. Human life is this way. It's tough. People die. And then you want to bring that to compassion and the activity of compassion rather than the activity of fear. So it's a very real thing. 10 minutes, Joyce. I got 10 minutes. 2 more.
Paul, can I just interrupt?
Yes.
It's I should apologize. Actually, you have more time than that.
Acha. Okay, so I'll keep going with these 2 questions.
Okay, thank you. So sorry.
No problem. I heard that little clip that you sent, the Joy. That was a sweet one. That...
Yeah, it's quite amusing.
And so you're saying that somehow there's a wall, is it called a firewall or something? And someone jumps over the wall and sends you loving kindness.
It's just my way of saying, that somebody jumped JC's wall mute mode.
Do you have that available? People can hear it, or maybe later?
Yeah, I think JC has that.
Okay. We'll listen to that later. Dear Luang Por, of late I have been reflecting on what is true refuge. In the past few days, you talked about the craft of the heart. It seems to be pointing to this true refuge I'm seeking to understand. So for me, remember my aspiration comes from the strong statement, affirmation from the Buddha, that there is the uncreated, the unconditioned, the unborn. And my interpretation of the Buddha's life is that when he saw old age, sickness, and death, he realized that he was subject to old age, sickness, and death. And he had the deep compassion, and I would say the deep aspiration, deep curiosity of listening to someone who would have said to him, yes, there is old age, sickness, and death, but there is also the unconditioned, because moksha or liberation or freedom from the round of rebirth is a principle that existed in India before the Buddha. Right? So it was in the culture. That's my reading of it. So in the culture, you have ideas of rebirth. You have very strong philosophies about karma and things like that. And the Buddha made adjustments to that. But you have this aspiration to nibbana or moksha or liberation. So we, like in Canada, we don't have that philosophy. It's unheard of. But the Buddha had that in his cultural milieu, right? And so that is basically my aspiration as a monk, to understand what the Buddha is talking about. And so the language he uses, there is the unconditioned, the uncreated, the unoriginated, the unborn, the deathless. And I keep repeating this, Luang Por Sumedho too. There is the harbor, there is safety, there is refuge, there's peace. What is that? What's he talking about? If there was not the unconditioned, the uncreated, the unoriginated, the unformed, the harbor, the safety, the deathless, the refuge. If there was not that, there'd be no freedom from this round of birth and death, from the nature of changing samsara. So if there was not that, then you just maximize happiness, right? Like if there's nothing other than sense experience, and sense experience is polar, it's happy and unhappy, then why would you not just maximize pleasure, which is what most culture does, maximize pleasure, minimize pain. But the Buddha says, well, that's a kind of endless cycle. And I think all of us have seen that. You kind of get some pleasure, you get some pain, you get some pleasure. Is that all there is to it? So the Buddha makes this powerful affirmation that this is possible. So my craft of the heart is trying to understand that and realize that, not just understand it philosophically maybe, but actually realize it in my own heart and mind. And so it seems to me that is where the refuge lies, both in doing what I do, but also in beings, because in the beingness of life, nothing is stable except knowing. Everything else is contingent and it depends. So the ideas of dependent origination, I often say that the first monk I met in India, Venerable Jnana Suchi, he would say to me, what word do you think the Buddha would have used most in his teaching? And I said, anicca. And he says, well, maybe it depends. Right? It depends. And that's true. Like, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? It depends. And what will my mind be like tomorrow? Well, it depends. And so dependent origination is pointing to that. So just the causality of our human existence, it depends. Like, how long will these light bulbs last? Well, it depends. And will I enjoy the meal today? Well, it depends, etc., etc. So that's called sankhara. It's a construct that depends. Now, nibbana, or the unconditioned, is called asankata. So sankata is conditioned and formed, and stuff depends. So what is not constructed? What is asankata? What does not depend? So does the sense of being or presence, does that depend on the color of the trees, or the shape of the Buddha, or the quality of sound, or the health of my body? Presence knows that the body is unhealthy or healthy. It doesn't depend. So you start to move towards that which is not contingent, not dependent. And tanha, or craving, is always moving to that which is dependent, because you don't have it, you want it. So you search for some sense of pleasure to get away from the pain, but that's always in the cycle of birth and death. Not that one can't I mean, I like pleasure. I like milk in my coffee. So it's not like some kind of moral judgment against pleasure. No, it's that pleasure is limited. Pleasure is limited. And so you don't put all your chips on pleasure. You don't go to Macau and go to the gambling dens and say, I'll put all my chips on pleasure. Thank you very much. You're going to lose. You're done. So you can, you play a little bit, but your main investment is in awareness. That's where you want to put all your chips as much as possible. And that really starts to play out when pleasure becomes less and less possible, when the sense experience through aging or sickness becomes really contingent and like there isn't much, like the macular degeneration. Like I just think about my mother, she was legally blind, she had osteoporosis, the body wasn't giving much pleasure, taste buds were not all that great. What's the refuge? And that's why we do bring up rather gruesome images of old age, sickness, and death. Not that we want to be gruesome people, but to realize that there is something that can transcend that. And if you wait too long, like that story that Luang Cha he would jokingly say to the villagers at Wat Pa Pong, he'd say, you young people should come to the monastery more. It's only the old people coming, and the old people can't even hear me. They're deaf and they're falling asleep. And then you go to the person, you whisper in their ear, Bhutto, 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 and you think they're going to get enlightened. Leave them alone. Let them go. And so don't leave it too long. So the project of the heart for me, or the craft of the heart, is both abiding in that sense of refuge, and also I think it is about compassion, the Brahma Viharas, as a sort of the emotional component. And that in itself has its rewards and is joyous and uplifting. But then I keep coming back to that basic question, uncreated. So when I ask you to, like, is awareness separate from sound? That's what I'm pointing to. That's what I'm hoping people kind of intuit. Okay. So then there's a question which would take a whole retreat. In one of my listening of Dhamma talks, there is the teaching of observing the arising and falling of phenomena during meditation. So that's the way you abide as witness rather than be caught up with objects. So there's the knowing of objective reality. Objective reality tends to pull you because of pleasure and pain, pulls you because of desire. You get preoccupied with objective experience, and that preoccupation prevents you from noticing peace. Then when you decide to witness objective reality as a changing phenomena, then that helps you from always going out into the phenomena, and you stay back as witness, as knowing, as awareness, as puru, because now to watch something changing, you can't go out into the quality of it. So if you're watching the changing nature of, let's say you feel inspired. Inspiration is not permanent. It's contingent. It arises. It stays for a while and ceases. So if you think that inspiration is permanent, not maybe logically, but sort of emotionally, you get all excited. Whee! This is great. This is great. This is great. Woo-hoo. And the idea is there, it will never change. And then, of course, it changes. And then you feel desperation or something. And then, oh, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. And then you become desperate. And then you think of something else maybe, and then you grab inspiration. Whoopee! And you're off again like a balloon. And then the balloon gets punctured and you go down again. And that's attachment to the changing nature of inspiration and desperation. Now, when inspiration arises and you say to yourself, okay, is this permanent? Now that sounds like a wet blanket kind of Buddhist thing to do to you, but that puts you in the seat of witnessing. Oh, inspiration feels this way and it will change. It's not a put down. Sometimes Buddhists use the language of anicca to put you down, which is really cruel, actually. So you're feeling really inspired, right? And you really love something. And then your friend says to you, it'll change. In other words, they're just jealous that you're happy. And they do the Buddhist number on you, it'll change. And oh, come on. And you feel put down by it. That's not contemplation. That's domination, isn't it? Something like that. But what we're doing is we're not saying that you shouldn't feel inspiration. We're just saying inspiration will change. You keep reminding yourself. So you feel like there was a question here about that, actually. Lately, we've been working on a bodhisattva project, and during the meditation, a lot of thoughts are coming up about this project. The more the thoughts come up, the more happiness and gratitude we feel about this project. How can we know that it is pure happiness without attachment? Well, I don't know about you. When I get a brilliant ideas, I only get brilliant ideas. then I feel very inspired by the idea, and then I sometimes follow the idea, and then halfway through the idea, I think, why did I start this? So inspiration, we all have that, I think. Inspiration compels you maybe to do something, but if you think that inspiration is like it's a kind of happiness, but what's like in terms of this project, if a person really works hard to help others, you'll see that the project is not necessarily easy. There's arguments with people, or there's a lack of resources, and some disappointment is bound to come up. But then you tough it out, you go through it, you keep working towards the good cause. Then when you come out the other end, quite often there's a different kind of joy. And it's a joy of completion. So friends in Singapore in the Firefly mission group who have been doing work with Laos. William and Corina sent me some pictures, very inspiring to see the work they've done with schools in Laos and so on. But what's the work then? Well, it means a lot of negotiation, talking with people, maybe who are recalcitrant, and raising funds. So all that work isn't necessarily inspiring. But then the result of having put forth so much dana and so much effort and so much thought into helping others, and then you see the result and think, yeah, that was good. That was good to do. So in terms of that question, I would say that kind of happiness of achievement is beautiful. It's not permanent. It's not permanent. So if you got caught with always doing projects, you can get very restless. You want the inspiration, you like to do the work, you like the happiness, and then you get bored. So that can be a very wholesome cycle, but also can be a burnout cycle. So you want to be careful of that. So observing arising and falling then is kind of standard Buddhist practice, but it's not just an opinion. When we say it's all anicca, so what? How is that going to help anyone? Of course, you kind of know that, but to actually, if we go back to the ideas of sati being mindfulness with a theme, so then you bring the theme of anicca sanya, the perception of change, and then you actually observe this moment and the changing nature of this moment. And then you can ask yourself, is there anything that's unchanging? And then you always take it back to awareness. What's that? What's unchanging? So it's a kind of double reflection in that way.
You're back?
I am back. There we go.
All right. This will be the fun part for you, Luang Por. This is the part whereby we are asking the retreatants to put up your hands if you wish to share your experiences in the retreat, or you like to express your gratitude to Luang Por. You may do so now. Please raise your hand. We have an Achana. So shall we go with Achana first, JC? Just give us a few seconds to monitor the screen. JC, can you mute Achana, please?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
I was going to say that it's a good idea to give African violet instead of orchid for Canada. The cool weather is coming. I'm living in Virginia. The orchid is doing well in the summer, but in the winter they go to sleep. African violets stay alive all winter long.
Ah, I see. So the Deva did a good choice for us.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next will be Meiji Punisha from Malaysia. JC, can you find him? Find her, sorry. Okay.
Thank you very much, Luang Po, for your wonderful teaching. Just to cut the story short, I actually have learned a lot during this retreat, and the best takeaway is to see a desire, the arising of a desire until its cessation, and followed by peace. It's such a wonderful experience for me after practicing for over 20 years. First time seeing this noble truth in such a way. Great gratitude to Luang Po and organizers.
Okay, can we have the next one from Thailand? Rayatana.
She just muted herself.
To express my deepest gratitude to Luang Po and the organizers for this wonderful opportunity. I feel inspired to say something because before COVID time, I had an opportunity to meet and grab Luang Po at Viradhammo. And Luang Po asked me if I had more time for Dhamma after not working full time. And just to say that I'm still trying to give more time to Dhamma. And another thing that sort of inspired me to say something is that this morning I asked about, I was the one asking about separation and doubt and those sort of things. And Luang Po said trust in awareness. And Luang Po also talked about confidence somehow in yourself. And I had an opportunity to attend the retreat of Luang Po Sumeto about 20 plus years ago. And I remember asking something to him. I don't remember the questions. I remember asking something different to him twice and on different years. And the answer was the same: trust in the awareness, trust yourself. And then 20 years later, I attended this online retreat and asked some questions, different questions, but around doubt again, and thoughts and analytical mind. And I got the same answer: trust in awareness. So some things changed, some things never change. And I just would like to thank you very much for that. I think that's the essence and where I need to work on. So wonderful teachings, and I feel deepest gratitude. Thank you very much to Luang Po and the organizers.
Simon.
Yeah.
Luang Po.
Hi, Simon.
There are obviously many downsides to what we've all experienced in the last year or so. But one of the wonderful upsides is that I and we have had the opportunity to to share your experience more frequently than maybe we would have done. So I'm incredibly grateful to the organizers. I'm incredibly grateful to you for your generosity. I hope we will meet each other again in Mae Hong Son or in Malaysia, or maybe now that I'm in DC, maybe I can come north of the border. But anyway, I'm incredibly grateful. Thank you.
Okay, Simon, thank you. Sister Damadina. Hello, sister.
Vandana Bhante, Vandana. I had in mind what to say, but all I really wanted to say was, may you get great joy and merits out of this retreat, and may these merits and joy last you this life and the next. May you be well, happy and peaceful.
Thank you, sister. Nice to see you.
That's
Nice
all
colored
I
robe
have
you
to
have.
say. Bye.
Okay, Malati.
Hello, Lampo. Thank you very much. Deep gratitude, Lampo, for the wonderful retreat, and thank you also to the organizers. So this is, I first did a retreat with you last year, this time with this group. So been practicing for a year now and finally getting around to witnessing without getting dragged up with the thoughts and emotions. So that is a great relief. And yes, and it's now the Dharma practice has become a craft. I'm trying to make it a craft of the heart instead of all the analytical kind of work it has been all these years in the mind. So that's really wonderful. Thank you so much, Lampa. Much appreciated. Deep gratitude. Thank you.
Manamotana. Thank you.
Namaskar ครับ
Sabaydi Mai.
สบายดี I would like to thank you for all the advice and suggestion that you provided to us. I find it very useful when you kind of walk along with us when we start to meditate, you know, aware of inside the mouth, and then you go through the whole body. I find that very helpful in the sense that I'm more aware of when my mind is going out, and I could concentrate more on the awareness inside myself. So I would like to thank for that, and I think it's very useful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. That helps. Okay.
Is that all? Can we have someone maybe from Nepal?
There's William. There's William.
Or William?
William and Karina.
They're in here.
Hi, William.
Brother William.
Karina. It's muted. We're not hearing you. No. Is it the earphones, you think?
JC? We can't hear Brother William.
Do you think it's the earphones?
Yeah, I think under the mute, you need to select next to the speaker, you can select the source of your speaker. There might be a different source of the speaker. next to a mute button, there's the arrow. There's a speaker. If you click on the arrow, you can actually select a microphone. So you can try a different microphone. Or maybe you can pull out your headset to see if it works.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Okay, there you go. Hi, you did it.
Oh, sorry.
Hi,
Technical
Longpo.
genius.
Very nice to see you again, Longpo. After this is
Nice to see you. Wish you were here.
You, Longpo. And it's still something very, very new to learn. I think Longpo's talk on the first day on the meditation itself was very, very insightful, very, very helpful to me, Longpo. And I shared it with many, many of my friends, and they really appreciate it. I think the guided meditation this time was very, very good, Longpo. I could follow it extremely well. And even when the thoughts came out, I could see the thoughts coming out. And I could see the end thoughts, Longpo, was very good.
Okay.
So thank you very, very much, Longpo. And I hope you will be able to visit Tisarana before too long.
Yes, and I hope to see you in Singapore too.
Yes. Meanwhile, take care, Longpo.
Yeah.
To the organizers too.
And we thank the organizers very much for putting this together so well. Thank you very much.
Grateful.
William and Karina are involved in the Firefly initiatives, Firefly mission. So they sent me the pictures of their work with COVID problems in Laos. And so, Anumotana for all your good work.
Yeah, we heard about the fireflies as well.
Thank you, sister.
From a
Thank you very
Singapore
much.
audience. Yeah, wonderful.
Very nice t-shirt, Brother William. Can you show us your t-shirt?
Thank you.
Well, there's the t-shirt. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the Tisarana t-shirt.
Yes.
You can't get that on eBay.
Thank you, Longpo.
Okay. There you go, Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, I first met you when I joined the retreat in July, organized in Thailand. Can you see me? Okay. In the retreat, I was very nervous. I'm still very nervous, but now I choose to trust in awareness to share my gratitude to you. And so thank you very much for guiding this retreat. And I particularly like how you share that we can bring this attitude in meditation to life. And I feel that it's very helpful in embracing life's challenges and not using meditation as a form of escape, but using it as a way to cultivate the attitude to face life. So thank you very much.
Okay, sure. Lovely. Shraddha from Nepal. Namaste. Cool.
Shraddha, you have to unmute, Shraddha.
There you go.
Hello, Lumpho.
Namaste.
Nice. Lumpho, thank you so much for this retreat and all the other teachings as well. We're so grateful to you for everything you teach. And for me personally, I feel like from your teachings, it has really changed the way I live my life and how I experience life. Like a lot of people have also mentioned just trusting in awareness instead of trusting in experiences, as you always say. And sometimes I feel like, oh, I understand that for some certain experience. And then I realize there are other experiences in which I totally get caught in experience. And then I realize, oh, that's trusting in experience instead of awareness. So your teachings has been so life-changing for me. So thank you so much, Lumpho. And thank you for this retreat, for your time. And always makes me very happy to see you. Gives us a lot of joy to see you. And a lot of gratitude to Lumpho. We love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to get the good feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, Shraddha also helped us in our distribution of food in Nepal for the poor. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Who you were doing that with your
Ajahn Chalo.
friends?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah, so
With,
she's
with Ajahn Achalo.
Yeah, she's
Lovely.
the contact point for us where Nepal is concerned for those who need food and clothing, and she did a wonderful job. Yeah.
Sadhu.
Thank you.
Anumodana. Well done. Yeah. All right.
Jesslyn. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Jesslyn.
Good
How are you
evening,
doing?
Long Po. I'm good. Thank you, Long Po. Thank you so much for all your teaching. I have actually benefited a lot the last 1 year listening to Long Po's teaching. And my Dhamma has actually deepened a lot. And I do a lot of reflection. And thank you, Long Po, for traveling all the way to Thailand to learn from Long Po Cha and translating everything into English so that we can understand, and teaching us the Dhamma in English as well, which is the only language that we can listen, read, and understand. So I really feel very grateful to Long Po. And I think Long Po is already my teacher for many years, because in the book Reflection that I read, it says the only book is to read is the heart, and Long Po did share that. So I have been doing that for many years now. And as Long Po Acha says, reading is different from experiencing it. So listening from you is really an experience, and it brings me a lot of happiness and joy. And each time when I listen to Long Po's talk, there is always a lot of joy and a lot of happiness. Thank you very much, Long Po.
Okay. Thank you.
Really very grateful and thankful to you for this 1 year. The Dhamma has really helped me a lot. And the meditation this time, one of my greatest hindrance is drowsiness. So I listen to talk, but the guided meditation, I could really see that the mind is bright. And when I bring up I am, there is a heaviness in the heart, in the head. And another time was, there is like the mind feel contracted. So it links up to a lot of what you've taught, and also what I've read. Thank you very much, Long Po. And also thank you to all the organizers for this retreat and all the previous organizers as well. And thank you to Zoom that we can meet you virtually. Thank you very much, Long Po. May Long Po be well and happy, and everybody be well and happy always, and healthy and safe.
Okay.
Hi, Long Po. Can you hear me?
Hi, Karen. Can hear you. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Greetings from Singapore. And I would like to say thank you so much for your time and grace in teaching us. I've become Ajahn Viradhammo junkie, retreat junkie. So I've done a few of your retreats already, and that's been really life-changing, like Shraddha said. And I'd like to echo what Cheryl said earlier on about the fact that you taught us how samadhi can be practiced taken from meditation into the daily life. And that's the most important part for us, at least, as we try to traverse life and then all the challenges that comes up at us. And it's important that we are able to rise to the occasion with grace. And thank you for helping us do that. And I also like to thank Venerable Amara Siri for taking care of Long Po so well. And that's very important. And to the organizers as well, Brother JC and Sister Joyce, for always doing such a fabulous job of organizing and making sure that we have this opportunity with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. And right on about Venerable Amar Siri. He's my guardian angel. I tell him sometimes, I ask him actually, I say, did my mother send you?
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm very lucky. Okay, that's good. So, there's Yo.
Hello, Lompo. Good evening. First of all, I want to thank JC for introducing this retreat. He actually shared the information. Without him, I think I could not join your session and meet you. And I think you are the first monk that I met who likes to joke so much that I don't fall asleep. So I'm very grateful. It's very energized sessions, and we don't feel bored, I think. So thank you very much for your time. Take care. Hope to see you again. And also thank you to all the organizers, JC and Joyce, and the rest who help out with this retreat session. It's amazing to bring so many people around the world together. Thank you.
True, yes. Okay.
Hello, Lumpur.
Hello.
So I've been a fan of Lumpur since even before the retreat in Mae Hong Son. And
yes.
So I've been listening to your podcast, and I've always looked for opportunity for your guided meditation. And also your Dharma talk is really very relatable, very light, very easy. And, I always remember that, how Lumpur takes care of your mother for 9 years. And I'm a mother myself, and I have a mother, elderly mother that, I try to take care and lead into this Dharma journey as well. So it's very relatable, and therefore it makes it very easy to apply it in daily life. Even when during, work in my corporate life, and it makes it very peaceful just listening to Lumpur's Dhamma talk, and also working at the same time. It just makes workday passes very easily. And we look forward to our weekends, because every Saturday morning when we have Lumpur's Dhamma Zoom, we look forward to that, because it just frees us, gives us that that freeing, peaceful feeling over the weekend, and before we rejuvenate and get back to work again for the week. So thank you so much, and also for the organizers, Sister Joyce and Brother JC, and we hope that Lumpur will continue to keep in good health, be joyful, be well and happy, and so that we can continue to learn from Lumpur. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the reflection. All right, there we go.
Do we have anyone else? All right. Lumpur, since we have all, those who have raised their hand has been done, and I just got a poem for you from someone. Definitely not from me, Lumpur. I don't think I can pen even the first line. JC, would you like to put that up? Okay, I try to read it like a poem the best I can.
Okay.
Appreciation for Ajahn Viradhammo's teaching. Long ago, an enlightened being walked on this earth, spreading his teachings for the benefits of mankind. His disciples all over the world had emerged, continuing the tradition in training the mind. Ajahn Viradhammo, in his tireless efforts, showed us the way to the right path, nudging us gently to go forward. With wisdom, he guided, and without wrath. His compassion and kindness does not sway, urging us on through life difficulties and rage. With humor and metta, he showed the way, filling our hearts with comfort and courage. Over and over, he stressed on awareness, to be aware and to contemplate, noticing the condition in awareness, plodding on with patience and not complaints. Thank you, Ajahn Viradhammo, for the guidance, our appreciation and gratitude for your teachings. Do forgive us for lapses and non-compliance. We will strive on with practice till our next meetings. Anonymous Yogi. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
It's nice, isn't it? Hats off to Anonymous Yogi.
Well, she said that I can write to you privately and tell you who she is.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
great.
So I think we have actually come to an end of our retreat, Luang Por. We have so much to say. I have so much to say, but I'll try to cut it short. Yeah. Thank you very much for another wonderful, inspiring retreat for the last 4 days. We are very thankful that we have met you in this lifetime. Having this great blessing to have this golden opportunity to listen to your invaluable teachings of the Buddha and to open up our hearts. Our deepest gratitude to for your time, energy, and your compassion and your boundless patience. I noticed the love and the gratitude and appreciation on the faces of the retreatants when they listen to your Dharma talk. You can feel the sparks in them when certain words or teaching touches their heart. It is so genuine, the smile, the little chuckles, and the, oh no, my Buddha look, you know. Perhaps seeing a little of themselves in the same predicament. When Luang Por described how to craft out a lifestyle which is less preoccupied with our objects, we have this space that sort of become a little monastery of your own that points you to the path to transcend and drop into greater peace. And this particular word lifestyle resonated with me very well, Luang Por. In a way, I also noticed that we constantly build up this little space, even in the home fronts, not just in the retreat, especially during this pandemic. You did a little bit of negotiation with your family, strike the small deals with them, that kind of thing, you know, and very gently with some wittiness, you tend to get, not all the time, but you tend to get a little bubble of little monastery at a certain time of the day. I think this will work very well with the spouses when you're a bit gentle and throw in a bit of wittiness in it, you know. Generally, you get your way, but not 100% always, though. Yeah.
Bake some cake.
Yeah. Chocolate cake, Luang Por. And you also have given us a beautiful framework to work on, like creating a lifestyle, throwing questions into the air and tell us to pause. No rush to find the answers, but to reflect on the questions. I think this retreat, we are very thankful to the retreatants. This is one retreat, Luang Por. We did not have any technical issue. Nobody rings up or WhatsApp us and on the technical how to do it, or we can't get in, that kind of thing. So the whole team has this lovely time to sit through many of the sessions in this retreat. So we are very thankful to all the retreatants. They're marvelous and really lovely. That also has given us this the time to listen to Luang Por with more attention and not get distracted at the same time. So there are some people that I would like to thank, especially the organizing team. They're from 3 different countries. One is from Malaysia, There'll be Christy, who is in charge of audio files, editing audio files, and Wai, who is doing the technical part. And Singapore, it is Sister Vajira and Brother Su Yan. And also Eric from Singapore and George, that's managing the YouTube channel. And Susie from Malaysia, who is managing the donations. And Kun Hun from Thailand too. And least but not the most important actually is Luang Por. Thank you very much.
JC. JC is the most important.
JC, my IT dev. Where are you, JC? Yeah, he's really my.
He's great.
He does almost everything, honestly. And we would like to thank Amarasi Bhikkhu and also Luang Por, you yourself, for taking the time to lead this retreat. We hope the next time it will be a face-to-face.
Yes, let's go for it.
Yeah, that will probably be next year.
You need a retreat center for 250 people.
That will be quite hard to find, Luang Por. Not in the mountains, maybe.
Not in the mountains. Well, Joyce, we're doing our first in-person retreat at the end of September here in Ottawa. So we're renting a retreat center, but we're also live streaming it. So that's how we're figuring out how we can get more people on board, because the restrictions are still the distancing restrictions. So we can only get 20 people into the retreat center. We usually have about 45 in that retreat center. So we're going to live stream it. So that's one way to combine both of these possibilities. Something to keep in mind.
Thank you, Luang Por, for the invite. Thank you very much. Yeah. We really appreciate that. Yeah. Well, lastly, of course, we would like to ask for forgiveness from Luang Por. Shall we invite Sun Xiang? Brother Sun Xiang, where are you?
Good morning, Luang Por.
Sun Xiang, how you doing?
Yes,
well, look at there's the African violets.
Sorry?
The African violets are on board. JC, you're a master.
JC is wonderful, Luang Por.
He's quick.
Okay, so we would like to formally seek for forgiveness from Luang Por. So may we invite everyone to please be Nanjali. Let's pay our respects by bowing 3 times together. Bow. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Please bow and remain in the bowed position. Mahathiri pamadena tawaratayena katang sabang aparadang kamatuno bante. Mahathiri pamadena tawaratayena katang sabang aparadang kamatuno bante. Mahathiri pamadena tawaratayena katang sabang aparadang kamatuno bante. Bante.
Aham kamami tumhe hipime kamitapang.
Kamama Bante.
Bhavatu sabha mangalang rakantu sabha devata sabha buddha sabha dhamma sabha sankha nubhavena sadasati bhavanti te.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's bow 3 times together. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Thank you so much, Luang Por.
Thank you, Shinzien.
Luang Por, do you still want to listen to that little recording?
Yeah, let's have it. It's fun.
Okay, let's have a fun time. JC,
Yeah,
please.
we do have one technical issue. So in this afternoon, when everybody was on mute, somebody managed to say something. So we recorded that. So somebody with a very sweet voice said this.
Thank you, Sister Joyce. Thank you, Sister Joyce. Thank you, Sister Joyce.
I'm not sure if you hear that a little more time.
Thank you, Sister Joyce.
That's sweet. Eh?
Everybody was on mute.
JC wants to know. JC wants to know
who did it.
Yeah, who jumped the firewall? Who jumped his firewall? Oh dear.
That's fun.
Is the person who says that is one of the retreatants? May we know who is he? Who was she?
No one's fessing up.
Right.
If you know how to do that, please teach us.
Luang Por, we have somebody who is in the chat room has asked whether can she still comment Su Ying Chen from Malaysia.
Sure.
Yeah. Can you raise your hand? Yeah, okay.
Hello, Suyin.
Hi, Luang Por. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
I'm another your retreat junkie. We started last year, so exactly 1 year. Been following you for 3 times, and the other adjuncts. This time, the key takeaway for me is actually seeing the patterns that I have been repeating, the habits that I've been repeating. So when I meditated, I saw the anger arising, and I feel that this is the same in my life, it's like similar incidents just happen all the time, that I do not have the patience to wait for it to cease. So that is the key takeaway that I'm learning so far, and it's been very helpful. So I would like to thank both of you for that, and hope to see you again in our next meeting. I'm not so optimistic that we will see face to face so soon, but I hope to see you in an online retreat again. All right. Thank you so much.
Be well. Be well.
You too. Stay safe.
All right. Luang Por, would you like to do sharing of the aspiration?
You have the text? Do you want to put up the text?
Yeah, we have it.
Okay, there we go. So this is in English. So if everyone would like to join in this. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, May those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless through the goodness that arises from my practice. And through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble Lord. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled. All right, there we go.
Luang Por, thank you very much again, and we wish you good health, long life, stay safe, and we hope to see you very soon, either in cyberspace or in person next year, hopefully.
Okay.
And yeah,
Thank
and
you,
thanks,
everyone.
yeah, and thanks to all the retreatants who have been such a lovely, sincere practitioner and a really
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luang Por.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Luang Por. Thank you,
Yes,
organizers.
well,
Thank you, organizer.
Wonderful. We love you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Joyce.
what do you do?
Thank you
Very
very
much.
You have to put on the
Thank you,
sign.
Luang Por.
Thank you, Luang Por, and the
Take care.
organizer.
Luang Por.
Bye.
Luang Por.
Luang Por.
Again, Long Pole.
Okay. Bye.
You.
Thank you, Luang Por.
Bye. Everyone.
Thank you to all the retreatants. Bye-bye.